Welcome, everybody. I have with me a very special guest, Dr. John Marchiando, who is a trumpet player here in Albuquerque and has been here for a while. And John, thank you very much for joining me with your very, very busy schedule.
Well, it's my pleasure to do this, and I thanks to you for doing this to kind of expose some of what's happening here in New Mexico to a larger audience. We're blessed to have some pretty great musicians in this town and in this state, for that matter, and it's nice. I appreciate you helping expose that to the larger trumpet world.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So a couple of things. Let's talk about you.
Mhm.
You're from where originally? Where are you from?
Originally from Wisconsin. That's where I grew up.
Nice. Where in Wisconsin?
La Crosse, Wisconsin, small town
Okay.
on the river, known as for a long time as a brewery town and for the rubber mills, and you know, now more of a medical town. You know, there's
Yes.
two very large hospitals in La Crosse, which is what brought us to La Crosse. My father was a surgeon before he retired, and that's where we settled after he did all his interns and things like that. Was
Very nice. You
correct?
have
Yes.
a, a bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Michigan. And is that in trumpet performance, music education, both? What was that in?
My undergraduate degree is in. It's a degree called Wind Instruments, which is a double major, if you will, of education and performance.
Oh, okay.
And it's pretty much the music ed degree plus a few extra performing things required, like a full recital and stuff like that.
Mhm.
At least that is what it was when I was there. I don't know if they still have that particular degree or not, but and so yes, I received certification in music education, and but also had, you know, and I was there. I started as a performance major, and then I switched to music ed. Michigan kind of opened my eyes in some way, coming from a small town in Wisconsin where I was number one, and I went to Michigan and was like, wow, there is a lot of really good trumpet players just here in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Oh, I better, do something that can guarantee me a future of some sort. I don't know, So and so I added the music ed degree after I was there a couple of years, and
So your master's degree, what was that in? Also music
uh,
ed?
no, then that was in performance.
Oh,
I,
okay.
you know,
That
and
was in
so
trumpet performance.
yeah, yes.
And so from there,
Mhm.
you went to Arizona State University, where you received your Doctor of Musical Arts degree. When was that? When did you finish that degree?
I finished that degree in 2004, but prior to going there, I lived in Ohio for a few years, 3 years in Cincinnati, just freelancing and teaching, and I had a couple small orchestra posts in there in Richmond, Indiana, and in Northern Kentucky Symphony Orchestra, which is now the Kentucky Symphony Orchestra, um, and uh, and then I moved to Toledo for a couple of years, where I taught at the University of Toledo,
Oh,
and yeah, and I was the visiting assistant professor of trumpet there with only a master's degree, and it was not a full time job that I knew I was going to be able to keep just based on the rules of the university, and so I decided I should probably look into doing a doctorate, and I went. It's kind of an interesting story. What happened with that? I It was springtime, like April of my second year teaching at Toledo, and um, I just kind of called or wrote an email to David Hickman out of the blue, just to get some information about the program. And I said, I'm John Marchiando. I teach at University of Toledo. I'm interested in the DMA program. Just want some information from you, and blah blah blah. And he wrote back about an hour later, just saying, uh, thanks for your interest, John. It just so happens I have a scholarship open because a student of mine just got a job. Do you want it?
absolutely. I think you said absolutely right
Yeah,
now.
I called my friend next door, and I said, "Did I just get offered a scholarship to ASU?" And he said, "Yeah." So I went from looking to go back for a third year to deciding very late to attend. And so I called Dave that evening. I said, Professor Hickman, I'm sorry that wasn't the answer I was expecting to hear. And he goes, yeah, well, you're teaching at a university, so you must be pretty good. I said, well, thank you. So what do we do now? And he says, well, you should probably apply to the university. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Let's see.
so I sent him a tape, and he was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll accept you. And so it was just, that the lesson I always, glean from that for students is to say, ask a question.
Yeah.
You never know what answer will come. The worst thing someone can say is no.
Right.
But you never know what'll happen if you just ask a question. So
yes.
So yeah, and so then I moved down to Arizona in the summer of 2000, and completed my degree in 2004. And part of that was because I, while there in Tempe, played an acting second trumpet position in both the Arizona Opera and the Phoenix Symphony, and so I was trying to balance a pretty active playing career and do my DMA.
Right.
So it was took me a little longer.
Well, and we'll get to what your DMA is here in just
Sure.
a minute. Now, you studied with David Hickman, and I had a chance to do a master class with him many, 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 many years ago.
Sure.
The man is just a genius. Oh my goodness, what was that like studying with him?
It was a weekly event where I'd walk in there and have my mind just blown by something that he would do. It just some bit of knowledge he had about not just trumpet but music.
Right.
And the biggest thing he did for me, in addition to fixing the issues I had as a trumpet player, which was astounding to me, but was just open my eyes to all the different ways we can approach music that are different than what trumpet players normally do. And that's what I try to do for my students as well. Is just like, let's look at this and not be a trumpet player for a second. Let's be a musician and figure out how we might analyze, how we might approach this phrase here based on music rather than just being a trumpet player. And just his knowledge of everything music is astounding. And then of course trumpet as well.
Well, yeah.
And so I was there during the time that he wrote his pedagogy book while I was there. He wrote he took a sabbatical one semester while I was there, finishing up, and he wrote the history of the Summit Brass book that I don't know if it's available publicly, but I have a copy of it on my bookshelf back there. And he finished that project in about 2 weeks, and and I was like, so what are you going to do with the rest of your sabbatical? And he goes, I don't know, I'll figure something out. But he amazed me in that he would get a project and then just go all in and get it done, and so just as I was leaving, he was starting to do his Trumpet Greats book, that project, which was a huge undertaking for him.
Right.
And his wife Miriam will tell you that it almost killed him. I mean, she says that facetiously, of course. But that was a huge project, but I mean, the fact he got that done as well is amazing to me. So yeah, I always say to myself, if I do half in my career of what Dave Hickman did in his, I'll have had a pretty damn good career. So.
Yeah, he's quite the accomplished trumpet player, quite the accomplished musician, and one hell of an educator.
Yeah.
Your doctorate degree or your doctorate dissertation, I should be very specific about that, is the Rafael Mendes online library.
Yes.
I had no idea that existed. And two, I went online and looked it up. Oh my Lord. Mm-hmm. How long, now you were there for 4 years.
Yes.
That's quite the undertaking. That is quite the project.
Yeah, well, so the website in its current form is different than the one that was built when I originally built it, and I'll be perfectly honest and say I didn't do all the code writing and stuff like that. I had a student helper in the computer science area who helped me with all that, but I'm the one who kind of came up with the template for how I wanted the site to look like. And then I'm the one who did any of the bios on the site, and I scanned in all the photos and programs, and so that took me several months of just sitting in the Mendes library scanning stuff, and so there's literally thousands of pieces of memorabilia in there that I scanned, and then thousands more that I didn't. Like all the original manuscripts
Wait,
and
so make sure I understand this. So they actually have a Rafael Mendes library, a physical brick and mortar library at
yes,
ASU?
yes,
Oh, I
yes,
didn't know that.
yes. And so
Wow.
yeah, and you can go do tours of that still today. It's a small, it's a 2 room sort of conference, a conference room and then a small office off of that. And in the conference room they have these glass cases full of memorabilia, like his trumpets and music and things, and photos on the walls, and then and a TV with a video you can watch of it. As a TA, I gave several tours of the Mendes library, and then in the second office there was, gosh, I forgot how many, but probably 10 or 12 filing cabinets full of music, of his of his editions of stuff, like
Right.
handwritten stuff, and for a while it was a working library, and they would loan out music to people who. The problem was is that Raphael did so much editing of his music for the specific ensemble he was playing with. Now, what made Rafael Mendes so unique was that um, he didn't just tour with the great orchestras of the world or go appear with them. He made a living appearing with high school bands and high school orchestras or high school jazz bands or salon orchestras or whatever. And if the band didn't have bassoons, then he'd rewrite the piece without bassoons.
Oh,
He
okay.
voiced, and so and David Hickman will tell you the story about how they were trying to organize all that music once the family donated it all to ASU. That they just had sheets of music all on the floor trying to get it all arranged, and so what happened is they start loaning out these pieces to people wanting to play it, and the score wouldn't match the parts that were in the band, and so it just became a real pain in the butt. So they've stopped loaning out music except for special occasions,
Okay.
and so like if a real well known trumpet soloist or something wanted to maybe have a copy of some of that stuff to do some recordings, they would do that with the express directions that, look, you might have to rewrite some of this,
Right.
because he was so active as an arranger and writer. When he wasn't practicing, he was arranging or writing,
Right.
and so he would, like, there's in each piece there was probably at least 5 or 6 different versions of the piece based on what he was playing it with, what kind of ensemble. And
So, and your job, your doctoral dissertation was to take that and put it online.
yes, yes, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so the idea was then so that more people could at least be introduced to the legacy of Rafael Mendes.
And it's quite the legacy.
Well, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
amazing.
it is. I will put a link down below and
Sure.
I'll make sure that people can click to it
Yep.
because yeah, I was overwhelmed when I clicked on it.
Yep.
There were things there I was just like, wait, I
Yep.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Mendes Library is still there, and they still give tours. The
Right.
TAs at ASU and Joe Bergstaller, who teaches there now, still give tours of the Mendes Library. So if you're ever in the Phoenix area, go to ASU, and drop Professor Bergstaller a note, and he'll set up a tour for you, and you can see all that stuff in person.
Oh, I
It's
plan on
pretty
doing that.
amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
will do that.
So
So when did you move to Albuquerque and why?
I moved here in January of 2006, for the New Mexico Symphony Orchestra. I won a job as associate principal third trumpet in the orchestra, and I took the audition because it was close and easy to get to, but I'll admit I kind of took it as a practice audition for some of the other bigger auditions I was hoping to take. Well, and I came and I won, and I was like, well, that takes the pressure off all these other auditions. And so yeah, I moved here in 2006 to start as third associate principal with the orchestra, the old NMSO.
Right, which is now the New Mexico Philharmonic,
Correct.
which you are the principal trumpet player for.
Right, right. Well,
And
and so how that came about was, so when I joined the orchestra, John Dante was principal trumpet, and so John won a job in Malaysia, and so he took a year off from the symphony, from the NMSO, and so they appointed me acting principal for a season. He then took a second year off, and so they appointed me a second season of acting principal. He then decided to stay in Malaysia full time, and so they had to have an audition, and I won that audition, and then Bryn, my wife, finished runner up, and she told the story on her video
Yeah.
of how she got the position. So
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, and then when the symphony folded, and the Philharmonic was formed, all the same positions were kind of granted immediate tenure as those positions. So
Okay.
you know,
Well, that answered my next question. I didn't know if
sure.
you had to re-audition or not for the Philharmonic.
Yeah, no, the whole idea of forming the Philharmonic was that those people who were in the orchestra for the NMSO, if they wished, they could stay.
Okay.
So,
So what other groups do you perform with on a regular basis? I know I'm opening a can of worms here because you have a lot of groups. You have recordings. You are an in-demand soloist around the world. What groups do you play with on a regular basis besides the Philharmonic?
sure, yeah, I mean, the two sort of main ones that I use as my calling card, in addition to the Philharmonic, are the Summit Brass and Tromba Mundi. Summit Brass being a large brass choir, brass ensemble that performs every summer at the Rafael Mendes Brass Institute in Denver, and the Summit Brass is the faculty at the institute, as well as we all perform with Summit Brass. And then Tromba Mundi is a professional trumpet ensemble made up of colleagues of mine from other college teaching institutions, and who all have also various performing careers that they do and stuff. But and so I just had Tromba Mundi here in Albuquerque for Trumpet Week, UNM Trumpet Week, and we hadn't performed in almost 3 years because of COVID, and so it was a treat to have them all here, and we had a blast. And I wish on everyone in the music business that they are able to find an ensemble. I have two, but an ensemble like these groups where you just have such great relationships with the performers. My colleagues at Summit Brass and Tromba Mundi are dear friends of mine, and I treasure every moment I have with them. And I learn something new every time I show up to do either of those things, which is what I love so much about music, is that you never know it all, and you keep learning. And I come back from trips with those two ensembles just refreshed and recharged and excited to apply what I've learned to both my playing but to my teaching as well.
Right. You are on the staff at University of New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
What are your duties there? What is your position,
Yeah.
and what are your duties?
Yeah, I am the associate professor of trumpet and the head of the brass area here at UNM.
Okay.
As the associate professor of trumpet, my job is to teach all the trumpet students their applied lessons, and to teach chamber music, and teach a studio class. I also teach a trumpet pedagogy class and a trumpet repertoire class, which is more, it's called trumpet repertory, but it's more of an audition preparation class.
Okay.
And so we focus on audition repertoire, whether it be for orchestras or military bands or even for college teaching jobs, so and just kind of having the students work on a list for auditions and kind of talk about ways to prepare that and get them ready for auditions, whether they're taking an audition or not for professional auditions. But the pedagogy class is exactly that. I teach the class. It's based on one that Dave Hickman taught me. It's basically a class to introduce the pedagogy other than mine, because they get my pedagogy in lessons, but there's lots of other different pedagogy out there that I want all my students to be aware of, especially those that are going to be teachers, because if you've only got one bullet in your chamber as a teacher and it doesn't work, you're not going to be of much help to a student. And I've seen that happen in master classes where somebody has only one pedagogy they can use, and it's not the results haven't been pretty. And so I always just tell my students, I want you to be aware of what else is out there, and you might totally disagree with this pedagogy, but it might be what works for this student.
Right. You have to be
So,
flexible what you're
right,
teaching. And that's what some of my students, what works for one student doesn't always work for another student. And you
right,
have to be able to, as an instructor and
mhm,
as a trumpet instructor, you have to be flexible.
correct,
And the more you learn and the more you know, the more you can transfer that to your student.
exactly. I've had to do that. I've had to draw upon some pedagogy that maybe I wasn't as well versed in, and I had to go kind of read about it some more, get caught up on it, or talk to someone who's better versed in it to see how I could apply it to a student. And that's the great thing about the teaching profession, is that almost every person I know in this field is willing to help. When I've called colleagues and said, look, I got a kid, I can't quite figure out what to do, but I think you might have the answer. That's they've all it's a great thing
Yeah.
about
Help me, help
you know
them. Yeah.
and most people in this field are willing to do that. And that's and I tell my students too. These people that you're looking up to in the world are humans too, and most of them are really good humans. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So now we talked about this before. You are married to Bryn,
Yes.
who I had done an interview with before, and I'll ask you the same question
Right.
that I asked her, and
Sure.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you guys are both really good trumpet players, and
Yeah.
she's in her own right. You are doing all these things. How do you guys create that work-life balance between each other and your family? How do you make that work?
Yeah, she kind of said it the right way, in that we've I don't know how we did it, but we have been able to figure out a way to separate the work life from the home life. Um, and I think the reason why we've been able to do that, though, is because there's a mutual respect between the two of us in all facets of our relationship. Um, uh, you know, um, it anyone will tell you, if you follow me on social media and stuff, you'll see that I love to brag on my wife. I'm so fortunate that I'm her person, uh, and um, and and I just have a really huge amount of respect for her as a player. She does things I can't do, um, whether it be jazz or just some of the musical ideas she comes up with, blow me away. I'm just like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Wow, and so I respect her so highly on that level, that I think that fosters such a great working relationship, that we just have such a mutual respect, that we have to work together well, and we know we can talk to each other and bounce ideas off each other, and
Nice.
and then personally, that respect level I have for her in the workplace triples or quadruples, whatever. Personally, I think the world of her as a person. um, she is, she just blows me away with what she does, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, she's one of the most genuine people I've ever met, and I think that's what drew me to her. you know
She's such an awesome person,
yeah, she's
and you
just
are
so.
very extremely lucky to have her.
I thank my lucky stars every single day.
All right.
And I think that's just where it all comes from. It's just that there's a mutual respect. She respects that I've had a bit longer time in the business than she has, and you know but it's been really great to watch her grow into her career as a trumpeter, and she's now she's she I I I can't say enough good things about her, in all facets. And I think that's just, I, I think that's what's lacking a lot in relationships in general, is just there's a mutual respect, for each other, and I think that's what's leading to the, you know, get on my soapbox for a second here. The high divorce rate in this country, is that people just get married without really learning how to respect each other first. And I think that's what Bryn and I have. And
Very nice.
we're very lucky. And I'm married way above my station. I will fully admit that. And she yells at me every time I say that, but it's the truth.
Well, good. Like I said, she's an awesome person, and you guys are
Yes.
both very, very good for each other. And my compliments to both of you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So I have a couple of other questions here that I'd like to get to. You are a Shire's performing artist.
Yeah.
So I asked Bryn the same question, and I'm wondering, because I've seen your collection. I saw some of your Facebook posts and some of the other things.
Sure.
What model do you play on mostly?
So I think the horns I probably play the most are the B flat and C horns. Those are just that's for what I do around town and stuff. That's what I play the most. But I do try to play all my horns every day. And so I play a B flat. It's an AHW, which is their Model A with a heavyweight bell.
Okay.
And my particular horn is one of their earlier production models. In fact, one of the earliest production models. I was one of Shire's earliest artists, they've made some really great improvements to their B flats, and I try them, and I think they're great horns. And I go back to my horn, and I'm like, but yeah, you know what? This one's still pretty good.
Yeah, don't change if it still works. Don't change.
I'm probably not gonna. I might send it off to them to have it fix it because it's a little older and needs some love. But
right.
And then my C trumpet is a 401, which is the same model that Bryn plays.
Okay.
That's their kind of overall sort of C trumpet. It has a heavier bell than some of their other models, it designed with orchestra in mind, but also versatility and other things. Like you can play it as a solo instrument, as a chamber instrument. It's kind of the most versatile model.
Very nice. I saw a picture of your new cornet. That thing was, that is just absolutely gorgeous.
That Shire's cornet, it's their Model 7A. Might be my favorite horn now, and I got that. I got that recently because I've started to play with the Fountain City Brass Band based in Kansas City, and man, I love playing that horn too, and that's playing brass band is a completely different experience than what I've done throughout my life, and it's talk about adrenaline rush.
What mouthpieces do you normally play? Do you have a particular brand or something that you play on?
I play Pickett mouthpieces on everything. I've found I'm not a big mouthpiece safari guy. I've not ever really done a lot of searching. I'll be perfectly honest. My mouthpiece journey has almost always been because someone said, "Well, here, try this," and I try it and I go, "Oh man, I didn't want to know that I like this better." So that's how I started playing Pickett. I was playing one of my first gigs with Trauma Mundi, and I was playing, I don't even remember what I was playing, and Bill Stoneman said, "Here, try this mouthpiece." I tried it. I was like, "Oh, great." But I got even with him because he then tried my Shire's trumpet. Same thing happened, and he had to start buy all his Shire's trumpets. So his change was more expensive than mine, so that's okay.
Yeah, well, okay, that's a fair trade.
Yes.
So last couple of questions for you. I know you're a big baseball fan. Big baseball fan. So is that always been that way? Are you always been a baseball fan?
Yes, I my father is a huge baseball fan too, and he and I commiserate quite frequently about the state of the Milwaukee Brewers. I tend to take that frustration out on social medias, no, yeah. I mean, I just from as long as I can remember, my father and I would play catch, and he was the reason I got into playing Little League and was a Brewers fan growing up, and I mean he taught me how to play Stratomatic baseball, which is the short explanation is it's baseball with dice and cards, and
oh my goodness,
it's really involved and it's really cool, and I haven't played in a while, but And so, yeah, my father grew up a Braves fan, and when the Braves left Milwaukee, he was heartbroken. And so when the Brewers moved in, he was immediately a Brewers fan and was like, "The heck with the Braves." They left me, and so I've been a Brewers fan my whole life as well. So it's my father's fault that I'm a
I just see all the posts. You are such a baseball fanatic.
yes. I just love the game. I could watch a baseball game anytime, and be happy.
Oh, nice.
So
All right. So anything coming up for you? Anything unique that you want to share besides the Philharmonic that you have up and coming? Anything unique you want to let people know about?
well, I'm excited. Coming up, I'm going to Huntsville, Alabama, with the Fountain City Brass Band for the North American Brass Band Association Championships.
Nice.
And so that's coming up in April. I'm looking forward to that trip. I'll spend a week in Kansas City first rehearsing with them, and then we'll all fly down to Huntsville to do the competition. And I'm looking forward to hearing all the great bands of this country, including the Atlantic Brass Band with my very good friend Brian Appleby Weinberg, who is the soloist, the cornet soloist with that band. But looking forward to hearing, many of the other great bands, St. Louis Brass Band, Chicago Brass Band, Colorado Brass Band, and all of these bands have colleagues of mine that I'm looking forward to seeing as well.
Nice.
And so it's just that's kind of the really big thing coming on my plate here in the next few weeks. And then I'm looking forward to July, having the Rafael Mendes Brass Institute be in person again in Denver. And so for any students who want to do that, they are taking applications now. It's a great experience. It's a week-long thing where you're put into a chamber ensemble. You get coachings every day from Summit Brass members. There's career seminars, master classes, concerts every night. There's a mock audition competition. The Summit Brass rehearses every day, and you can go watch those rehearsals. And then we do a concert at the end. The chamber ensembles all do concerts also, and it's a really great week of brass, and it's really unique in that you get to sit and have lunch with the Summit Brass members every day as part of your tuition, things like that. And so if you're at all interested, I would highly suggest applying to that. Just go to mendesbrassinstitute.com, and you can apply online there and see what some of the greats of the brass histories have to say, so we haven't met in person for 3 years. I can't wait to see all my friends there.
That'll be awesome. I'll put the link down below also
Sure,
on
thank
that.
you.
So, well, let's wrap this up. I want to thank Dr. John Marchiando for joining me today. I thank you for your time. I thank you for all your wonderful work and all the energy you put in for Albuquerque and all the brass stuff that you do nationwide and worldwide. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. I hope to hear from you guys soon. If you have any suggestions or anything, drop me a line, send me an email. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.